Did I tell you,
Here.
Ruben, that Orion is now, what's the word? Contributing to the household. He has a job.
Very
Yeah,
good. True.
yeah, he's working
What
as
do
a.
you do, Orion? I work as a an aide for special needs classes, high school classes.
I see. Very good. Uh, is it when you say an aide? What's your title? That is just aide. Is that
Yeah,
your
it's an
title?
aide. A sub
Okay.
aide because I'm a substitute, so I go around the district and I
Oh,
just go wherever they
nice.
need.
That's
Yeah.
that's really neat. And do you work one on one with students or do you work more as
Um,
a or
Actually, yeah, it kind of depends, like what they want me to do. Like they could put me with the mild mod cl kids, or they could put me with the mod severe class kids. They usually put me with mod severe because they know I can handle it. And actually, in this school that I'm at right now, which is my high school that I went to, it's I'm working with a one-on-one mostly. Yeah, a one-on-one mod severe. So yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today we have special guest Orion Aguilar. How are you, Orion?
Hello, I'm doing great. Having a great
Orion,
evening.
I'm glad that you're having a great evening. I thought that we would discuss movies. It's unusual for this channel that we just take a break from education. After all, we're already in June. We're moving on from school. We're taking a little break, and that's what better way than to talk film. And the topic is the top five directors of all time. And I just thought, I hope we don't talk to cross purposes here. And what I mean by that is we're not talking film school talk. We're just talking our favorites. You know what I mean? Like, I recognize that there are filmmakers that
Hmm.
are considered the most influential. Let's throw that aside, although maybe your favorites are some of the most influential. And let's just talk what we think are our favorite directors. We'll start with Orion. What do you think, Orion?
Um, so I have my five directors here. The first one I want to talk about is the Coen brothers, um, which are I guess two people, but they count as one director to me. I mean, they work together for the most part. I think recently they split off into doing their own things, but um, at least when they were together, they were at their best. I put down four movies for them because I had a couple like extra ones I wanted to talk about just briefly. Um, First, I wanted to talk about oh, Blood Simple, which I thought was a really good movie. It's one of their first movies. They do this thing where there's not necessarily a hero or villain in their movies, which I know a lot of like directors do that, but the Coen brothers do it best because they give you a setting, they give you a bunch of characters who are very gray, moral standing characters. Some of them do bad things, some of them do good things, but at the end of the day, they're all human beings, and the way they interact with each other is very unique, but also very realistic. It feels like this is a real setting with real people doing real things, and they do a great job of just of giving that sort of realism to their characters. You never feel like there's a character you can completely cheer for, but at the same time, there's not really a character you completely want to like see die. You want to see even another movie I mentioned here, No Country for Old Men. They created probably one of the most complex villains of all time, and Chikur, and he's a very interesting guy because he's kind of a what's the word? He's kind of a psychopath, but there's no real like motive to what he does, and it's very like I heard a guy say once that it's kind of like a natural disaster, like how a natural disaster doesn't know what it's doing, doesn't know that it's killing, doesn't know it's doing this destructive stuff. And I think it's they created a character which kind of feels like if a tornado or a hurricane was a character. But I think that's so interesting because he's not somebody you're necessarily cheering against as well. You kind of wanted to see like what he's doing, like what's this guy up to? Like why is he doing what he does? And I think that's really interesting. Um,
I have a question for you, Orion. So, are you saying the Coens are your favorite or they're number five,
I'm
number
putting them. Oh yeah, sorry.
one?
So I'm starting with number like I guess what would be number five-ish. I kind of didn't. Yeah, that would be like my number five, probably. Yeah.
And you're saying that two of your favorites are of their filmography, you would say Blood Simple and No Country.
Yes, those are two of them.
Can I
Um,
can I can I analyze you
sure.
by calling you a very dark soul by
Yes, I
picking?
know. They're very, and that's my thing is they're very dark movies. Fargo is also kind of similar to those two movies where it's like they're very they're dark. They're 100% dark, but they also feel like they're sending not necessarily a message, but they're kind of just putting you in a situation. That's what the Coen brothers kind of do. They just put you in this situation where like a lot of crazy stuff is happening, and they just let you watch it play out. It's like watching a I don't know. I hate to say like a plague spread or something, but I don't know. It's very interesting to me.
But don't you feel, because you mentioned Fargo and Blood Simple, don't you feel that the elements of darkness are there, but one of the things that elevates maybe the Coen brothers from other directors in that same genre is that they're funny. Aren't you
That's
laughing?
true. Yes, that's true. They do have a lot of what's that called? I guess dark humor. They're very black comedy movies, which I think is very, very good. I like a lot of black comedies. Later on, I'm going to mention another black comedy that I really like from a different director. I think black comedies are something that don't always actually appeal to me. I think it's very hard for those kind of movies to appeal to me because I'm like, oh, that's like, damn, like that's like such a deep topic, and we're talking like a very a very dark situation. But how's that funny? But the Coen brothers do have mastered that craft for sure. I'm glad you mentioned that. So another movie I mentioned here is a movie. I wanted to put a movie that people don't talk about a lot, and it's one of, I think it's their last movie they did together, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And that movie alone is literally is just black comedy. Like that's the entire movie. It's there's like five or six like different situations, and not all of them are like haha funny, but like a good amount of them are like, oh, that's funny. Even like the first one, like the Buster Scruggs ballad, that one's really funny. Like you
The
have this,
singing
he
cowboy or
starts
something, isn't he?
you see, yeah, he starts singing a song
Yeah.
before he dies. He becomes
Yeah.
like an angel or whatever, flies away. That's really funny. But I really, really like the oh my God, I can't think of the actor's name right now because I'm so bad with names, but he has a brother. He was in Spider-Man. He plays well, eventually he plays Green Goblin, but he's his friend, Peter Parker's friend. What's his name? What's the actor's name?
He played James Dean. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think
Yeah.
that makes sense.
James Franco?
James
James
Franco.
Franco. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. That's weird. But yeah, James Franco. His story is really funny. I think it's really interesting because I mean I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting to spoilers, but I there's like a scene where he's like about to get hanged, but he already got hanged earlier in the movie, and he like looks at a guy who's like freaking out crying, and he's like, first time. I don't know. That's such a funny like such a funny line when it's like you're about to get hanged, but it's like such a perfectly comedically timed line, and it's just funny. And the last movie I wanted to mention is a movie I could probably go on for like hours about, but I know I already kind of took up too much time talking about the Coen Brothers. So, and that's Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I was telling my dad about how Christopher Nolan's doing an Odyssey movie, and I understand that like obviously that's like actually based on the the story of the Odyssey, but I think it's so interesting when a director, even when you see like these directors do like a Shakespeare play and they put it in like the setting of like I don't know 1950s or something like that. It's like so interesting to see someone do something different, And I know that's such a typical thing to do, but Oh Brother, Where Art Thou like really masters that craft. It's also one of the first movies to do that like dingy like 1920s feeling like that filter that they did. They really like influenced those kind of period pieces so much with this movie, and I don't think people talk about it enough. The music is amazing, the story is amazing, the characters are super funny, they're amazing, and the way they make things like the Cyclops, the sirens, and all that make sense in the 1920s is so creative to me. I mean, it's such a difficult thing to like kind of do that, Like the Odyssey is like it's a very mythical story, so it's like the way they make it work is so fantastic. It's so amazing. And yeah, that one has a little bit of black comedy too, but the reason I like that movie so much is because actually, unlike No Country for Old Men or Blood Simple, there's no maybe it has like little like I don't know about dark, but it definitely deals with some like heavy topics, but it's like it deals with them in a way where it's like it's fun and lighthearted at the same time too. Like you enjoy it. Hey, it's okay if a movie doesn't have a happy ending. Sure, I still love A Brother Where Art Thou. It's such a happy movie, but it still has, a lot of deep subjects. But I realize now some movies like No Country for Old Men are like are
That's my
actually
favorite.
extremely creative. It's very good. Like I think it tells a great story, and that's a good thing
What are
to me,
your-
you know?
what is your commentary then, Jake, about the Coens? And I'll give mine.
Yeah, they're one of my favorites too. They're on my list, but I will say this that one of the great things, and we didn't mention it. You didn't mention it, Ryan, but almost every film is at a different setting, and they not
That's
only do
yeah,
they have a different setting, like for example, Fargo's in Minnesota, right? And then you got Raising Arizona, I think is in the Midwest somewhere, if not Arizona. But the whole point is that they not only take the geographic setting, but they also take the language and even like the whole Big Lebowski, it's all dude and we in California don't even know that we say it all the time, but I always say dude, and I know my brother-in-law says it all the time. And so that's another thing that I like with the Coen brothers. They go somewhere and they be, their characters are from that place. And yeah, there's comedy, there's dark comedy, but it's a lot lighthearted. But yeah, I think I like that you have them on because I remember once talking to you years ago, Orion, about the Coen brothers, and you were like, yeah, they're all right. But I think over time you've seen some
yeah.
more of their films, and I think you've enjoyed it. So enjoyed them. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
I will say this about the Coen brothers. They are also on my list.
Wow.
And
Oh well,
Jake, did you say it, they're not on your list or they
No,
are?
they're on my list. I'm sorry. They are.
They're also on my list, and I want to say this about them, which is pretty astonishing. So, I have this. Well, I'll just say, look at their streak. They have the longest streak of great films in a row of what I would say there are great films. I know this is all opinion, but listen to this streak. They beat even though they're not number one for me, they beat every filmmaker on my list in terms of streak of greatness. Listen to this streak in a row, right? Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, The Hudsucker Proxy, Fargo, The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother Art Thou, sorry, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and The Man Who Wasn't There.
yeah.
What a
They
streak.
they produce so many great movies. I forgot about. I mean, I forgot to mention like Miller's Crossing is such a good movie too. They have a lot of good movies. Like it's pretty crazy.
That's nine in a row. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, Orion. Number four.
So for number four, it's kind of tough, but I put Quentin Tarantino, another pretty big one, obviously. I really like Quentin Tarantino. I know he's definitely got his like quirks I really like, obviously. I mean, his movies are ex usually pretty violent, you know. That's not something I actually think is what draws me to him, though. I think what draws me to him is just like the Coen brothers, the way he characterizes, or the way he characterizes, yeah, just the way he writes his characters. I was telling my dad the other day about how I really like in Pulp Fiction that there's a lot of downtime, which is a movie I'm gonna mention. Pulp Fiction is probably my favorite movie by them. I mean, by him, sorry. Which obviously is like that's kind of a basic pick, but I really like Pulp Fiction. I really like Pulp Fiction. Um, but I really like how the characters will talk to each other a lot in his movies, which I know is like a very small thing, but I just want to talk about that because it's just such a great piece of Quentin Tarantino's writing. Is they'll be like sitting down at like a table and they'll be discussing like which pizza place has the best pizza or something crazy like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like an actual instance of what they're talking about, but I just think it's so
I,
interesting.
I,
Of
I don't remember the pizza conversation. Can
no,
you
I'm just making something up. I'm making something up.
Or
I'm
maybe
just saying
in
that
yeah.
I'm just trying to save you because there's some Tarantino fans who are
I know.
gonna
I'm trying to think.
Or
go
Reservoir
really
Dogs talking about the waitress that we
Yeah,
should
yeah,
tip.
yeah,
Like that's a good example, right? The tipping.
yeah.
about tipping. So Reservoir Dogs is the tipping scene, right?
Yes, no. It seems like that are like are typical are
It,
really
it
really amazing.
it truly is. It truly is. And I'm talking. But I'll wait till you finish, right? But yeah, you're just gangsters talking about me, mundane subjects, which it makes it fascinating, right?
Yeah.
No, and that's what it is. I know. I'm trying to think of what they were talking about in Pulp Fiction, like before it come over. It's like a philosophical question. Like it's very interesting, and I'm like, that's so like
It
that's so
depends on
random.
it depends on the scene because if you're talking about the scene where where Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta are driving, they're talking about Travolta's trip to Amsterdam and how
The the
they
food,
were talking
right?
about McDonald's, right?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
McDonald's. See, something like that.
Right.
That's
McDonald's,
what it was. That's right, McDonald's.
Quarter
McDonald's,
pounder.
they don't have, McDonald's,
They
they
don't have
have
the
the
quarter
Royal
pounder.
cheese, not
Yes,
quarter
yes, yes,
pounder.
yes. That's right. See, I'm sorry. I thank you guys for refreshing my memory. I love these scenes so much. I honestly I do put this together, and I didn't re do a lot of research
It's
for this,
okay.
but yeah, no, I remember. I just seems like that. I love so much, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is so good. And I put down also Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglorious Bastards, which are two other movies I really like. Those are both kind of historical pieces too. I think I like those historical pieces. They're really good. And I think Inglorious Bastards is also what I was talking about, kind of a black comedy. There's definitely some funny scenes in it. But it's also like a kind of a serious movie too. It's really good. It's a well-written movie, like all together. It's great. And it's telling two
You know,
different stories at the same time and it balances it well. And I think a lot of movies don't always balance like multiple stories that well. It's like, oh, we're going here, 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 here. It's hard to keep up, you know? But with Inglourious Basterds, it does a good job of just making it feel like, oh, okay, this all fits into one continuous story and I'm following it along and I like all the characters. I like all the characters. They're fun and they're interesting. Even the bad guys are well written. Um,
do you think there's even a bad Tarantino movie? I mean, have you ever seen one, Ryan or Ruben, that you say, oh, that's just
I
awful?
haven't, I still haven't seen a lot of his great movies. Like I honestly I
Oh,
haven't seen Kill Bill, so
oh wow.
I don't
Oh,
I know. So
oh, we
This
have to
I
weekend,
kick
this
you
weekend.
out. We have to kick you out of the Tarantino fan club if you
I
haven't
know.
seen Kill Bill. You really
That's
should
kind
see
of
it
fair.
as soon as possible because I think you really like it.
I know.
But
I know it's going to be
Yeah.
a movie I love too. That's the thing. It's like I don't
it's
know why I haven't seen it.
if when you well, I'll just say just on the heels of that, when you watch it, you will realize how it is a crime that Uma Thurman didn't get nominated. It is a crime that, or maybe she was nominated, she didn't win. Ridiculous. Everything that she did in that movie, her performance and her
Yeah.
the action scenes, give me a break. Jacob, what's your thoughts on Tarantino?
Oh yeah, I mean, he is one of my favorites. He's also on my list of top five, and I like the films that Orion shared, and Inglourious Bastards and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's just great. I just like he also just like the Coen Brothers does they do to, as they take you to these different settings. Like in Hollywood, he takes us to Los Angeles, right? In the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and you feel it. You see the wardrobe, and he really gets into it. The wardrobe and all the fashion, all that is very
Sure.
important to him. So I like his films because every detail, he just doesn't just like, oh, it's not important. Everything's important to Quentin Tarantino, and he spends not just 1 year with pre-production. He spends years pre-production because he doesn't do one every year a movie, and then
Sure.
post, of course. So I like that he takes his time. He's only going to do what 10 movies, he says, and I really, Ryan, I'm not surprised you picked him because I know he's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, his films are a lot of fun to watch.
They are.
I'm going to say that I like every one of Tarantino's films, and there is a film that is considered his kind of it's dismissed and it's called Death Proof. I liked Death Proof. I don't. I think it's his least, the least of his films.
Yeah.
My favorite of his, it's a close. Pulp Fiction is right behind Inglourious Bastards for me. And Inglourious Bastards, if you watch it, every scene is great. And the very first scene, the scene in the Parisian farm, right, where ah,
That is a good
where
scene.
the Nazis come, where Londa comes and
Yeah.
checks out. That could be a one act play. It is. It has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it is powerful. The
That is true.
performances, good choice. Tarantino's not on my list, gang.
Oh wow.
Oh my
It,
God.
it,
That's crazy.
it- it's very hard to put him off my list. But I really thought hard about this. The five that I have, I just couldn't put
Yeah.
off. I couldn't put away. Okay, Orion, number three. I think you're
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Three.
So here's an interesting one. I put this on here because I wanted to like because I knew you guys are gonna put the ones I've already listed. Probably all the other four I listed, you guys will probably mention. So I wanted to put something that was like kind of like real for me that I was like, oh, this is a director that I think a lot of people like, and he was a really good director. And that is the director Hayao Miyazaki, probably maybe the best director when it comes to animation. I mean, this guy is probably what everyone thinks of when they think of the greatest director in animation. Hayao Miyazaki
Is
is a
it?
Japanese director.
Yeah.
Can you give
This
us
is
a
Uh,
one
title or two?
Grave of the Fireflies, right?
yes,
Yeah.
I've actually it's one of the Hayao Miyazaki movies I've actually never seen. There's a lot of movies I actually haven't seen by him. I've seen most of his big ones. I've actually never seen Totoro. That's another big one. But I mentioned Spirited Away because I think Spirited Away. it won Best Animated Picture, I believe. And I think it might be probably the best an it might be the best animated picture to ever be because it's a really well made movie, not only like story wise, vision wise. Well, yeah, no, not only story wise, but like visionary wise. It's a very beautiful movie to look at. Um, I adore that movie. Like I watch it all. Like I used to watch it all the time. It's such a great movie. Um,
Did you say Spirited Away
Spirited
or
Away, yes.
Spirited Away? Yeah.
Um, I also put on here Kiki's Delivery Service. I love Kiki's Delivery Service. I know that movie is probably not as deep as Spirited Away. I think Spirited Away has some really good messages in it. It's a very, very deep movie. Very also the world building is amazing. And Kiki's Delivery Service is very simple. It's a very simple movie. I hate to say simple, but it's a coming of age movie about like a witch going into like a town and basically coming of age, it's a very simple coming of age movie, but I think it's such a beautiful film. It's very simple. And something about these simple movies I like a lot because they're very real, I don't know. I think I'm actually kind of a sucker for coming of age movies in general. I think it's always really nostalgic to see a character kind of like grow up and come of their own, and the last movie I put was Castle in the Sky, which is one of his first movies. It's good. I mean I really that's a movie I really like. I think the world building in that movie is probably my favorite of all time. I think Hayao Miyazaki in general, if there's anything that he does great, it's world building, which is extremely difficult when it comes to like animation because it's like, oh man, you have to like, come up with that and like how you're gonna draw that and how it's like, and he does such an amazing job of all of that. Like he puts all that visionary stuff that's all him, and that's so it's so great. That he does this. He's done it so many times. He's done so many of these stories that are like take place in these mythical worlds that are just it's just crazy to me. And Castle in the Sky is so cool because it's just like it leaves you wanting more. It leaves you wondering what else is in this world. But it doesn't really give it to you, and that makes I love that. I don't know. I love that about his movies, and I love that about what he does.
Can I ask you something, Orion? Has
Yes.
he, and I don't know a lot about him. I know a couple of the films that you just mentioned. But has he done anything that's not animated, like live action?
Good question. I don't know. He hasn't done anything live.
Okay.
He has done a few interesting things. I believe he's helped, for example, because he does like animation, he's done a video game, which is interesting. I want to say it's interesting that they mentioned live action because I've researched him obviously before, and I think he's maybe helped with something, but I don't think he's ever like straight up directed a live action movie before.
Okay.
Um, because he's an artist himself. He does like what he does is his art. Like what he does is yeah, that's his thing. But
His
obviously, he puts it all together too, and that's it's also pretty insane. A lot of these other directors don't, they don't do the art and all that, A lot of them do a lot of stuff that he doesn't do, like, the costumes, like you mentioned, which is really interesting. But I think there's something special about animating and the colors. And actually, a movie I've actually never really loved is called Princess Mononoke. Um, Personally, but whenever I think about that movie, I think of, man, this movie is so beautiful. The colors are beautiful. Like it's actually one of his more bloody films. It's pretty PG-13 to R-rated. And it's like, but like, man, even like the blood, like against like the blue background looks nice. I don't know how to put it, but it's like, oh my gosh, like this movie looks gorgeous. Like it's a beautiful film.
I mean,
Like
his filmography is pretty astounding.
that
I
too.
mean, you said Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle.
That's another
Pretty,
great movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. I think that's a very interesting choice. That's a good choice. What can you say? It's beautiful. He makes beautiful movies.
Yeah.
What's your next one, Orion? Is it number two now?
Number two, I put Christopher Nolan, which is a very recent director. I feel kind of bad real quick. I mean, I know this is just a little note. I put a lot of like more modern directors. I'll probably shout out a couple at the end here, um I do like a lot of old movies too, I swear. But no, I really like Christopher Nolan a lot. Um Christopher Nolan is obviously very noted for his how he doesn't really stick to the linear, I don't know, like the
Format,
timeline,
yeah.
like a typical linear movie, right? In high school, middle school, even elementary school, we taught how, you start with the the preposition, and you eventually, go to the climax, and then you hit the, and all that, and then it goes down, and all that is like it's typical movies, typical story writing. If you want to make a story, that's great. But with Christopher Nolan, that thing's all over the place. Like there's no this does not follow that line at all because it doesn't need to. And I think that's what he thought. He's like, you know what? Why don't I not do that? Everyone does this. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that at all. And and honestly, not all of his movies are crazy. I think a lot of people put it like all his movies are like all over the place. Not all of them. Okay, Interstellar's not like that. Dark Knight's, I mean, a little bit, but not like completely. Dark Knight's not completely like that. But he definitely, even in those movies, has a point where he goes back. He shoots back to older moments, and you have to remember things at the beginning, like the first 10 minutes. The first 5 minutes are important. And Christopher, I mean, I don't want to spoil Interstellar, but like the first scene in the movie is like a documentary, and that's like that shoots back all the way to the end of the movie, like not even the end, but like the last 20 minutes. And I think that's just so like it's so interesting how they do that. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's so good. It's so I don't even know how to put it. I think his movies are like masterpieces.
What's your favorite one of his though?
And now I'm gonna get to that. Memento is probably my favorite movie of his. I really like Memento. It's a great film, and that movie is like literally, it's him. The movie's backwards. The whole entire movie's backwards, but at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, it all comes together. The twist is amazing. I'm sure that movie's kind of even crazier when you watch it a little inebriated, but I didn't do that. But no, it's insane. It's insane to watch it. His movies are crazy. Even his historical pieces, I didn't put them on, but I like Dunkirk, Oppenheimer are so. It's like he even does that in such an interesting. Even like Oppenheimer, he doesn't do like linear, like he like goes back and forth, but you get the whole story, and I think that's such a great movie too. And Dunkirk is actually not really like that as much, but there's like three different sections, and just like what did we mention? Just like was it who had like the three different pieces where it was like, oh, kind of, oh, Tarantino, just like Tarantino and Inglourious Basterds. It feels like, oh, it doesn't really I feel like I can keep up with all that. It all makes sense to come together, and I'm following it all very well, and it's very difficult to do that. Um, but he does it great in that movie. All of his movies, in my opinion, are really good. All that I've seen. The only movie I kind of found it hard to follow was Tenet, but if I watched that again, I probably would appreciate it a bit more. But yeah, that I love Christopher Nolan.
Jacob, your thoughts on Christopher Nolan?
Yeah, he's on my list. I will say about him. He's one of those directors where I think at first I wasn't really into him until I started watching his films like a second time because Orion likes him so much, and I've changed my opinion so much that he's one of my top five directors. But I do like you shared, Orion, that he's not linear, but there is but he has a beginning, middle, and end still. He does have that. And it still becomes clear as you go. And that's part of the journey and part of the fun about his films is that you know that there's gonna be a big payoff at the end. And you can't wait to see
Yeah,
what that's gonna be. And so I think that The Dark Knight was one of my favorite films of all time, actually. Some of the great performances. And we talk about, sometimes these DC movies and these Marvel movies they all become all the same, but not that one. That one's different. That
sure,
one's
yeah.
fun. That one's entertaining. That one has great performances by Heath Ledger and by Christian Bale and so forth. So yeah, I just love that he has some really great and just like Tarantino and the other directors that we've talked about so far, he has a lot of the same actors in all his movies, and so it's fun to
I was
see
gonna mention that.
what
Forgot
he's gonna
about
do with like you know Michael Caine in a lot of his films. So anyway, yeah, good choice.
Okay, I am an admirer of Christopher Nolan, especially his early films, more so than his latter films.
that. I feel
I
that.
agree with you when you say, Orion, that Memento is your favorite. It's my favorite of his. And
Yeah,
I'm a big appreciator as well of the Dark Knight series. And I feel like the third one gets a bad rap.
Mm.
Uh,
that's
third
true.
one I thought was excellent. Everybody took
Yeah.
the second, the Dark Knight, which is good. First one I thought was good. The third one. Okay. I guess we're winding down to your number one pick, Orion.
What is that?
Yes. Yeah, so my favorite director, well, actually, at first I want to like just kind of go over some people I didn't mention. I know you guys are probably gonna mention some, but I just had a couple directors I like. I
Honorable
didn't
mentions.
honorable mentions. I have a few honorable mentions. I wanted to just quickly say I haven't seen all of his movies, but I've seen a couple I really like. I like Darren Aronofsky. I know he's a little I don't know if he's a little controversial in the family. I know some of our family members aren't the biggest fan of him, but I like his movies. I like Requiem of a Dream. I like The Whale. I didn't put Alfred Hitchcock on here, but I think he has some really good movies, and I know you talked about this isn't a list for influence, but I mean his movies are. I mean he was the first to do so many things. It's like he's so influential. The Birds is good. Rear Window. And yeah, I think that's it. Um, all right, and my
Okay.
favorite director is probably Stanley Kubrick. I think Stanley Kubrick is the best director, and I honestly haven't even seen all of his movies. I probably have seen more of Nolan's catalog than Kubrick, but what I've seen of Kubrick has just been so mind-blowing, and it's just like, wow. What he's put out, what I've seen, just one of his movies is like, oh, this is one of the best, like it's one of the best movies of all time. And what he's done is he's gone and or what he did is when he went and he made one of the best movies in like 10 different genres. Like he was he did everything. He did everything. Not none of these directors, in my opinion, did everything. Maybe the closest you could be like is the Coen brothers. They did a lot of different different styles. But Kubrick did a bunch of different genres. Like you had sci-fi, you had horror, but not only did you have sci-fi, but you had one of the greatest sci-fi, most influential sci-fi movies of all time, 2001's A Space Odyssey, which I don't even think, I think I've honestly, I put that down, but I don't know if I've ever like sat down and like watched it all from front to finish in one sitting, you know? But it's such a long movie, but it's really good. He put one of the best war movies of all time, Full Metal Jacket, a completely different movie, mind you, like completely different. But the acting is so amazing. The acting is great. Um, the act, and the story is amazing. And it's like, and that movie actually has like two halves to it too. And I really like that portion as well because it shows all of the what's the word the mentality that goes into preparing for war and then what it feels like to actually be in war and it does in my opinion one of the best jobs of any war movies in putting you into those shoes. I don't know if any war movie really does it to that extent, and maybe it's because it's coming from a perspective where it's obviously anti the Vietnam War and a lot of movies are glorifying it. We have a lot of movies that glorify obviously the men that fought in World War II, and those are all good things by the way. Like that's all great to glorify all that, but it's also like at the end of the day we are in war, and I think with that movie it was very, hey, this is a not a good war. We're not glorifying anything, and this is what it's like to be in the Vietnam War, and it did a great job of that because it was a very hard time in our country, and it's just an amazing movie. It's an amazing war movie, and
Yeah.
what happened?
No, I'm gonna say, yeah, I think that's one of his best is that that film. Yeah, there was another movie that came out at the same time called Hamburger Hill. I think it was trying to be um be this film, but it wasn't, it was just gross and brutal. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing about this movie, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it's so easy to do an anti-war movie and be like, "Oh, look how gross and brutal everything is." But even like recently, the movie On the Waterfront, I know it's not, but even that movie did a good job. When you see a movie like that movie or Full Metal Jacket, it's like, oh my gosh, like these are movies that aren't just like, oh, look how violent war is. This is why war is bad. It's so ugly. Yeah, obviously, like no crap, right? Like this is obviously why war is bad. Like there's blood. But when you show why from a person's perspective, why it's such a bad, why war is so bad, you're showing their thinking, what these people go through, different people, what different people go through. Joker and Snowball and I can't remember his name, but D'Onofrio's characters, they all are very different people, but they
Kyle.
all got drafted to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting because not everyone's the same. Not everyone's like trying to be a hero, you know? Not everyone's like not everyone's like Lieutenant Dan, right? But also, but I do love that movie as well. But not everyone's that mentality. So I think that's really interesting to see the different perspectives and why and how it mentally affects different people. D'Onofrio obviously was very affected by building up for that war, and I think showing that is so good. Um, Showing what happens when you maybe put somebody who's not stable into that setting because they drafted people. They were like, get in here. If this is your birthday, get in here. And it shows you what happens when you do that. So I think that's a great critique of the Vietnam War, but also a good critique of war as well. The last movie I mentioned by Stanley Kubrick is one of the greatest films of all time. Another movie, probably like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, that I could probably go on for. We could probably do another one of these podcasts just talking about this movie. I love this movie, The Shining. It is not only one of the best horror movies of all time, it is one of the best films of all time. And I'm sure some people will be like, it's not top. It's a top five movie of all time. I'm 90% sure that this movie is one of the best of all time. It's when people talk to me about it, they're like, oh, it's not like, it's not, oh my gosh, horror all the time, and like so scared. It's not, I don't know, it's not The Conjuring or whatever. But that's not what makes a horror movie good, in my opinion. I don't when I watch a horror movie, I'm not trying to like get jump scared every 2 seconds. We get to watch movies like all that all the time. We could watch there's other Stephen King movies that are that's what it's all about. I like It, for example, but it's at the reality is it's a very like very horror horrific looks scary. It's good. It's a really good movie, really good. I don't know about the book, but it's good. But The Shining isn't that. That's not what The Shining is. Yeah, there's like a few parts that are like, oh my gosh, that's scary. That spooked me. Like, oh, but what makes a horror movie good and what makes his horror movie good is that it's building up on your, I don't know if the primal fears, but
Psychological, right? Like your psychosis, you're like,
there you go. That's the
it's in your
word.
head,
Very
it's in your mind.
psychological fear. It's very
For example, what do you mean by that though? Like what is that primal fear you refer or the psychological fear? Like, is there a scene in particular that makes Shining powerful?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna put a scene I really like a lot about what makes me feel psychological is I love the scene. I could go into like every scene and be like, I love this scene. This is why I love the scene. But the scene I want to just mention right now about that is I love when not yeah, Danny Torrance, the kid, when he's on his little like three-wheel bike and he's going through the halls and you see little like flashes and you could be like that's kind of like jump scares, but I don't think that's what Stanley Kubrick's doing. I don't think he's trying to jump scare you. I think he's letting and people will say this, it lets your mind wander. You see the entire layout of the hotel while he goes down that tricycle. Your brain builds that mental map of this entire building in such a short span of time. That scene isn't that long, really. It's like maybe a 2-minute scene, but you see him going down with his bike, seeing these, and the whole point is that he has like these psychic powers. But you see him seeing these visions, and it builds. Not only does it build the setting, but it builds the story as well. What happened at this hotel? What happened in the past? And it never tells you directly, and that's what I love about this movie. Is it does a lot of things that Nolan does good, Cohen does good, but it does it to the highest praise. This movie is amazing with that. We have Johnny. He goes and he sees these visions. He sees visions too as he goes into like the bar and the ballroom, and he sees these people talking to him, and little by little you start to see what is going on with this movie. What the heck is going? Why is this all happening? And I think that's so great because it doesn't tell you. This movie doesn't tell you. It doesn't show you. It doesn't tell you in a linear way, but there's so many good scenes and does such a good job of also showing you don't have to even look at it in a deep way either. You can look at this movie face value and you could be like, oh, this is a really good movie when it's showing you um how a man goes insane. That's how you can look at it. You can look, man, this is really good. But when you dive deeper and when you look deeper, it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. And there's, in my opinion, very few movies that I can mention that do that. There's not a lot of movies that do that. This movie does every single thing well. It's not too long, it's not too short. The acting is great. Shelley Duvall got a golden raspberry because her acting was really bad. No, no, no. I think her acting in this movie is one of the best, some of the best acting I've seen from a woman,
I agree.
or
I'm
anybody. I'm
glad
sorry, but just
I'm
acting.
glad you said that. She gets knocked for that film, but she is hysterical. What do they expect? I mean, some people act hysterical in a different way, but it was great.
Exactly.
I agree. Yes. It
Um,
is. It is a story about a haunted mansion, a haunted hotel. People knocked it because it wasn't Stephen King's version, but I agree with you. It delves deeper into this guy's losing it and the ghosts that haunt him, and you find something different every time you see it. I agree with you. Any
me too.
thoughts, Jacob, on
Yeah.
Kubrick?
Same thing with what I shared before. I've been watching a lot of these movies through Orion, not through Orion's eyes, but with Orion. And I've seen them years ago. You know, when Shining came out. Now, I probably didn't see when it first came out, but a little time after. And I think that is one of his best. Although almost every film is, you could say that about Stanley Kubrick. But I think it's a great choice. And being number one, you know, I'm gonna tell you something funny, not funny, but true. He's not on my list, but he was almost on my list. And the only reason why he's not on my list, Orion and Ruben, is because just a few movies that he made. Although you could say same thing with Quentin Tarantino, but it was hard to have him off it just because of the excellent films he did from, you know, Lolita
Um,
to this one, to Eyes Wide Shut even, and Clockwork Orange, right? Just some of the craziest scenes that haunt you. You know, you still think about them. And so, no, I think that makes sense that that's number one for you. 'Cause I
um,
know you love The Shining, so yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I just want to cut in real quick. I just remembered how Uncle Ruben talked about how the Coens had a long string of great movies. I think you could probably say Stanley Kubrick did kind of the same. I mean, he had a lot of great movies too, from beginning to end. But even, and I think people will probably like, well, what about AI? And it's like, well, AI is like if a director had like a little like notebook, you know, you like had like a few like little like drawings. That's what AI was. That's his contributions to AI. Spielberg made it what he
No,
wanted to make it, you
no,
know.
he didn't direct that though.
He didn't direct it.
That was
No,
Spielberg, and
of
I think
course, yeah, yeah. That's my thing is that wasn't him. You know, that
that
was
was
just an idea he had.
It would have been
Sorry, we're
different if he
saying,
directed it. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I
well,
think it would have been better. I think there was concepts of a plan there that would have been great. So, sorry,
speaking
Uncle.
of Streak, because you mentioned Streak, here it is. Here's the Streak: Killing, Passive Glory, Spartacus, Lolita, Doctor Strange, 2001, The Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. That's a pretty good streak.
Oh, jeez.
Pretty good.
He is on my list, so I agree with you on that. Very good. I like your list.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jacob, and I guess you mentioned a few.
Yeah,
Orion mentioned that are already on your
yeah, I'm
list,
gonna go
huh?
pretty quick through mine just because a lot of it Orion shared. It'd just be
Sorry.
diddle with me. No, no, no. It was good because I'm because we have similar taste.
Yes.
But I will say this: I had number five, Alfred Hitchcock. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great
It's good.
movies, The Birds, but I love some of his older stuff because you know he's around a long time. Made a lot of films from Suspicion to Rebecca. Right? I love those old Cary Grant films and of course Rear is it rear view window? Yeah.
I think
Uh,
it's is it? I
or
forgot.
rear window. How do I pronounce it? Rear window
Is it Rear Window? I don't know,
with
but yeah,
Jimmy
that's a good movie.
Stewart. So yeah, he had some of his favorite actors in his films, right? He had Jimmy Stewart, Cagney, and so I I have him there because just the suspense of it. He was one of the first guys to do that, but do it well and took his time with his films. And he also understood to have great actors, right? He not everybody could do or pull off some of the things that he did. I mean, Jimmy Stewart is like they say the Tom Hanks of that time, or Tom Hanks is the Jimmy Stewart of our time. But just having these type of people who could really express what's on the page, right? And do such a good job. I think Rear Window is one of my favorite films of all time, maybe top 10. And so and of course, Rope and so forth. And so yeah, that's Alfred Hitchcock is my number five. So should I just go through all five? Number four, I have the Coen Brothers. Two of my favorite movies is The Big Lebowski and Fargo. So The Big Lebowski, if it's on TV, I'm gonna watch it all the time. Again, these actors are great with
It's a good movie.
yeah, Jeff Bridges and the dialogue, and you just are when it's on, I'm just watching. I just want to see, what's going to happen next, even though I know what's going to happen next. And just because and each scene is just so colorful and so it pops at you. And so the Coen brothers had a long string of hits too, and they had a couple misses, but I would say most of them I enjoyed. And I'm a little disappointed that they haven't made anything recently together, at least. I know they've done things separate. But yeah, Fargo is maybe one of my favorite films too. I know Orion, you're not a big fan of that one, but I think I encourage you to watch it again. I think the acting is great.
I might like it more if I watched it again.
Yeah,
I kind of curious. I know it has nothing to do with them, but I know it takes place in like the same universe. Just to watch the TV show.
yeah, the
I'm kind
TV
of
show. I
interested.
saw the first season. It's really good, but just the whole deal with the accents and you feel like you're there in Minnesota, and you feel like
Minnesota.
okay, is that how it is up there in the border? But
Yeah.
so yeah, the Coen brothers would be my number four. Three would be Martin Scorsese. I see that you have Goodfellas on the wall. I'm kind of surprised you didn't have him on your top
Yeah,
five.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
But good,
Um,
yeah.
I sorry, I
Go
want to
ahead.
say I do
Yeah.
really like Scorsese. It's just hard because I think I've seen a lot of his newer movies, and I think of his newer movies. I think like I like Flower Moon, and I like Irishman, but he, I think a lot of these other directors, I think what they'll do is even when they're really good, they'll be
Mhm.
like, huh. I should probably still listen to my editor. And I don't think Scorsese does that. I don't think he likes to listen. He doesn't. He doesn't because
Yeah.
he's always like I mean, I know people criticize Marvel movies all the time, but this guy is like so adamant on that. He's like, I hate Marvel. Like, I know
Mhm.
we all don't I get they're not like cinema masterpieces, but we get it, dude.
Yeah.
He's very I guess maybe he's very Italian, right? He's very
Yeah.
Italian guy. He's very, very, very blunt. But I also think he likes to get his way. And I
Yeah.
that kind of
I think a lot of his
bad,
earlier
but
stuff is better than the ones that he's done last 10, 15 years, like Raging Bull,
oh
Taxi
yeah, that's true.
Driver, Goodfellas. These are films I could watch over and over again, and if they're on TV, I'm watching it. Even
I forgot about
Taxi Driver,
Taxi.
which is pretty, although it's not as crazy as it was when
I,
I first saw it.
I
I
forgot
saw it
about
with you,
Taxi
Ryan.
Driver. That's an amazing movie. That is an
Yeah.
amazing film. A
So
great
again,
influential
Robert De
movie
Niro,
too.
he loves Robert De Niro and DiCaprio. He puts those guys in his movies quite a bit. And so yeah, he's my number three. I would say number two is Christopher Nolan, and I don't think he would have been on my list unless I lived in the same house as you, Orion, because we've watched a lot of his films over and over again. And I think one of the big surprises for me with him is Interstellar, which I hated. I hated that film until I watched it again recently, and I go, how did I miss it? Just it's a long film, and maybe that's what threw me off, but I just really got into the characters and just even the story between really a father and his daughter and his children, right? And then even seeing just how time lapse in that film. And like you said, it's not linear, his films, and you get to really go into the characters of each of these people that are portrayed in it. And I loved Interstellar. Now,
Um,
where I hated it before, it's one of my top films of his. Of
can I
course, Dunkirk's my favorite. I love Dunkirk because I'm a history guy. I love
yeah.
the history of it. True story, Winston Churchill pulling out all those ships, retreating back to England, and then giving that famous speech of his. I'm sorry, you say something, Ryan?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, it's funny you mentioned that because we are talking about I talked about the Irishman a few seconds ago,
Hmm.
and how a movie like that could be the same length as Interstellar, but man, Irishman, I could be like at points I'm like, dude, like let's wrap it up. Whereas Interstellar, I'm like, no, no, I wish this was longer. This movie
Well,
is
Orion,
fantastic.
you and I are on different planes, different
really,
worlds when you say that. I would flip it, but go on.
really.
I
Oh
do want to
wow.
say this though about Dunkirk. When it came out, Tarantino said it was the best. It was his favorite movie
Hmm.
of like in like 20 years, 25 years. I think that's his favorite Nolan film,
Such a
Dunkirk.
beautifully shot film,
It's
and
underrated.
yeah, I would say
Um,
Hans Zimmer though is in a lot of. I have to bring him up because
that's true.
I
I
just
forgot
saw
about that.
an episode of him with Rick Beato on YouTube, and the music is it makes those films. I mean, Interstellar. The reason why I like Interstellar even more, I think that music is just haunting, and when you see these films by Nolan, which he picks, he's smart to have Hans Zimmer do it because he just pops those that music out there, and you're just listening to it. I drive around and I just put that on, and it takes me
Yeah,
back to those films. But yeah,
yeah, it is good
yeah.
music.
So definitely Christopher Nolan for number two. I do want to
Um,
mention my last one as number one. I put Quentin Tarantino because I just love, love, love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglourious Basterds are probably my two top films of all time. Not top five, but top 10 for sure. And they're up there. And so I just love everything he does. In my mind, I don't think he's done any bad movies, which I can't say with all the other directors. But for him, I could say he's up there and he's number one for me. And yeah, so he's my guy.
Okay, so fine choices. I'm glad there's no director either of you picked that I cringe. I don't want to mention a name, but I was hoping one of you wouldn't pick a particular director that I do not like.
Can I
I'm
say
kind
one
of
thing though? All right,
kind of
Ruben?
curious.
Can I just say, would you cringe? Because my two honorable mentions are Wes Anderson and P.T.
Yeah,
Anderson.
yeah. I was
Would
gonna
you cringe
cringe.
with Wes?
Not P.T. Anderson.
I
He's
know, not
great.
P.T., but Wes. I was wondering you probably would cringe on.
I feel like with Wes Anderson, I really like a couple of his films. I really like Rushmore,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorites. But I just don't like his latter films. I just don't. I'm just gonna say that. But I appreciate him. Royal Tenenbaums I thought was really good too. But
Do you do you feel the same way? 'Cause I think my favorite Wes Anderson movies um are Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs. Do you feel the same way about his latter films that are like more animated, or do you feel like that's
I
different?
mean, they're okay, but I just feel like he stuffs too much. He stuffs too much, too many actors and too many ideas because he
Okay.
can, because everybody wants to be in his movies now, because some of his I think based on his earlier stuff. And he makes interesting films. He's an interesting he's an idea guy for sure. And everybody wants to, the top actors want to be in his movies for
Yeah.
a reason. He is an interesting director. I'll give him that.
I had a
Um,
feeling you were gonna say I was gonna be one of the directors that you were gonna cringe at is Wes Anderson. It's
Yeah. But kudos to Rushmore because I think that's an amazing film.
a good movie.
Okay. I will say that I'm gonna wrap it up as fast as I can, but I will say that I choose great films. The criteria I have for a great film is I can watch it over and over again, and it comes on and I'm down. Okay. So I have to pick the Mount Rushmore, although we have to add a head, right? If it's five, is is the ones that consistently do it for me. So Kubrick, for years was my favorite director, but he's not number one because he's number four. Okay, but I'm gonna pick the ones that do it the most often, if that makes sense. Although some of Kubrick films are the greatest of all time for me. So it's kind of iffy. But then again, my number one falls under that category too. I'm kind of splitting hairs in a way. But my number five great I just want to point something out because I had a long disagree. When you talk film, people get kind of
Yeah.
personal. And I was clapping back at my friend because he picked Spielberg in his top five. And the reason
Yeah.
why I don't pick Spielberg is because when you look at his filmography, um, a lot of films aren't great for me. I don't
Mm.
watch them over and over again, with the exception of Jaws, Raiders of the Lost
Oh,
Ark,
yes.
E.T., Empire of the Sun,
Mm.
Schindler's List, and Minority
Yes.
Report. That's
All amazing movies.
Yeah.
yeah, those he has six
All
for
amazing.
me that I have watched over and over again, but I don't watch War of the Worlds over and over again or Farm.
That's a
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't I actually hate War of the Worlds. I thought it was bad.
I would
It's
say
guilty
maybe
pleasure
Close Encounters. I would throw that
Close
one in there too.
Encounters is on the fence for
for
me,
me.
but I'll accept that. Six or seven, that doesn't do it for me.
About Jurassic
Uh
Park.
no. So I count one, two, three, four, five, six, six. That doesn't do it. Not even close. Um, and then I will say that see, I guess these are honorable mentions. I guess Spielberg would be an honorable mention because that is a lot compared to other directors.
Right.
Nolan has fallen off for me, but it's a personal thing. Maybe I need to rewatch Inception. Maybe I need to rewatch Interstellar. I just Oppenheimer was just too long. If it got cut by 45 minutes, I think it would be amazing.
That's fair.
But I love some of his. I love Insomnia, Memento, Dark Knight, Hitchcock, Rope, Rear Window, Strangers on a Train. But he doesn't do it. Like after that, I can't rewatch North by Northwest like that or Vertigo. They're just okay. They're good. They're not great.
Yeah, I
Okay,
like
sorry.
those movies.
Tarantino just missed it. Honorable mention number
Wow.
six. Here, I'm gonna give you one that you're gonna go, what? Brian De Palma for me falls under this category, and I'll tell you why. Here we go. Blowout, Scarface, The Untouchables, Casualties of War,
Oh,
Carlito's
those movies.
Way, Mission Impossible, Femme Fatale. He just edges out Tarantino for more movies that I've watched over and over again. I have to give it to him.
He's great.
Um,
He's great.
number
Wow.
f-
Yeah.
number
What's your favorite
four.
film of his though? Before you go on,
Carlito's Way, Dressed to Kill. Dang. A lot of
what's your
movies.
favorite
Yeah, I
De
didn't even
Palma?
think Dress to Kill. My favorite film of his, based on how many. I'm gonna maybe The Untouchables.
Yeah.
It's so much
'Cause-
fun. It's a
I
fun
love that
movie.
movie. I love that movie.
Yeah. Okay. Number four, we talked about him, Kubrick. And Kubrick to me has more maybe more of my favorite films of all time. You picked Full Metal Jacket. I would also throw Doctor Strangelove for years was my favorite film of all
It's a good movie.
time. And then it's still in top five. 2001 is one of those films where I agree with you. It's around
Sage.
it's one of those things that is it's not a typical entertainment, but it's kind of like a film that you just sort of
It's an
are
experience.
mesmerized by an experience.
Yeah.
Uh, I there's so many good ones of his. I'm I'm gonna have to go, and I'm gonna upset you, Orion, when I say Martin Scorsese is my number three pick, and I'll tell you why.
Wow.
Here we go with Martin Scorsese.
I mean, I like him. I
Are you
do.
sure? Oh, here we go. Taxi Driver, Raging
I love that
Bull,
movie.
King of Comedy, Goodfellas, Cape Fear, The Age of Innocence, The Departed,
The
Hugo,
part is
The
good too.
Irishman, and Killers of the Flower Moon. So, um, there's so many of his movies that I watch over and over again. That he even nudges out Kubrick for me because he has more of them. So I counted, and it's for Scorsese, it's 10, and for Kubrick, I think it's 9. See how I'm doing this?
Yeah, yeah.
I have
I
to
can
do
see
it
that.
very systematically. I think for Tarantino, it was 6. So it was like
Okay.
one of those things. It's a numbers game for me. That's why number one, you're gonna be like, what? And you're gonna there's a
Good way to do
reason
it.
he's my number one. So number two are the Coen brothers. And the
Ah,
Coen
Wow.
brothers are 12, 12 films listed are movies I could watch over and over again. Simple. Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, Hudsucker Proxy, Fargo, Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, The Man Who Wasn't There, No Country, True Grit, and Inside Llewyn Davis is fantastic.
Seen parts of
We
that.
didn't
Yeah.
talk
It's
about
good.
True Grit. I think the remake was great.
I agree.
Are you ready for my number one? He's number one with a bullet, meaning by far, he runs away with it. Nobody's mentioned him today.
William Wyler?
Who?
John Ford?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't go into that where we start talking about Howard Hawks and
Oh,
all these
Jordy's.
all these old geezers that,
Say David
and to be
Lynch?
fair, Howard Hawks has some of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Rio Bravo, His Girl Friday, but come on. I don't sit back, and I
Right.
could rewatch Rio Bravo
His Girl Friday is pretty fun.
and His Girl Friday is great. But okay, of course I'm talking about the great Woody Allen.
Oh,
Ah, I thought about
okay.
putting him on the list. Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go, everybody.
Here we get canceled. Thank you, Ruben.
Take the money and run. Take the money and run. Play it again, Sam. Love and Death. Annie Hall. Manhattan. Stardust Memories. Zelig. Broadway Danny Rose. The Purple Rose of Cairo. Hannah and Her Sisters. Radio Days. Crimes and Misdemeanors, which on any given some days I think it's my favorite film of all time.
Yeah.
Bullets Over Broadway. Blue Jasmine. And then I might have missed one, but I lost my screen. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna leave it at there.
What's your
Here,
favorite though of his?
before I tell you that answer. Sweet and Lowdown, and I mentioned Blue Jasmine. I wanted to tell you how many I counted.
20?
17. 17, everybody. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Okay.
pretty.
And my screen is going crazy here. Okay, I completely lost it, so I don't see anybody. But 17, I count. My favorite of his, it's so hard to say, but it would probably be Crimes and Misdemeanors. But Annie Hall is right up there. I
Good one.
rewatched Bullets Broadway. Amazing.
Probably Annie Hall for me, but yeah, they're all great.
He has a couple of stinkers in there, but he's got so many he's made so many films. Woody Allen
The Front is really
is
good too. Ah,
my
jeez.
winner. Yeah,
Very
that
good.
was good. But
Yeah,
that's
this
my
is fun.
answer.
Oh
Any
man.
any comments on my choice for number one?
No, I think I did think about him. Just to be honest though, I should have had him as an honorable mention because a lot of those films is our childhood, as you
Honorable
know.
mention. Honorable
Well, I know he's your
mention.
number one, and he's an honorable mention for me. But when I first was introduced to him, I didn't
Honorable
like him too much,
mention.
as you know. But because we were kids and we are watching these Woody Allen films. But
Yeah,
as
but
I got
we're
older, I
no, but
know,
that's
I know. But
no,
as I got
that's
older,
irrelevant. Yeah.
as I got older, they meant more to me because I laughed and I enjoyed him and he was so consistent. You had 17 films there, so consistent that every time I saw one of his films, I'm like, well, this is great, and another one, this is great, he almost does one every single year. I think he's in his 80s now, right? And he's still
I have to
pushing them
say,
out.
it's so hard to make people laugh that consistently. And I think for me, when I look at the list, I want to laugh, right? Except for Kubrick. Although you could argue Doctor Strangelove and Full Metal Jacket in their own way, and Clockwork Orange in their own way
Yeah,
are
Yeah,
comedies.
that's fair.
Um, though I even Scorsese can make you laugh with Goodfellas. It's very funny. In a way, it's a comedy. But I like to laugh, and I know how hard that it is to do that. And it's just amazing to see this man's output.
yeah. Oh, this is fun, man. The time went by fast, and man, this was great. This was a good time.
I want to thank
Um,
Orion for joining us. Orion, any last words about our discussion on our favorite directors of all time?
I feel like I have a few things I kind of wanted to mention. I feel bad. I know we already kind of went a long time,
Did you
but
like my list?
I did. And I'm gonna say this first
Are
too.
you bitter? Are you bitter that I chose Scorsese and you
No,
called
I
him a
like
boomer?
He has
Colin?
Goodfellas.
He has Goodfellas on his wall.
Goodfellas, my wall. Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies of all time. Let me just say that right now. I
Goodfellas, from beginning to end, you can't ask for a more entertaining film. That movie does not let up. I didn't even mention After Hours, which is a movie that's not a great movie, but it's you watch it, you think this is a wow directed film.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that. It's. You're right. He has a lot of great movies, but Goodfellas is. I have a list of my favorite movies. It's number four of all time. For me, I love Goodfellas. For me, it's my fourth favorite movie
What's
of all
number
time.
one of all time? What's number one of all time?
It might that would invalidate my list, I think. But um, I picked this as number one. Let me defend this real quick because to me,
Don't defend, just say.
And then
Don't
defend.
apologize.
First say and then defend.
Never
uh,
apologize.
my favorite movie of all time, and what I think is one of the best movies of all time is Star Wars Episode 4.
Oh, that takes you out of our discussion. I'm just kidding. That's a
I
great
know.
movie.
I think the storytelling is great. I think the acting is actually, I know it could be a little cheesy, but I think it's really good. And I think it literally like it's kind of like The Shining for Star Wars. It's like or for sci-fi. It's like
It changed filmmaking. It changed the whole thing.
it
Yeah.
changed everything.
Yeah.
But not only the influence, but the just storytelling of Star Wars. The world building is just amazing. So I love that movie. I don't know. I have people who like I tell that list to, and it's like literally like Goodfellas, The Shining, Blade Runner, and then Star Wars. It's like people get
Maybe
really
we should
mad.
do an episode on best films someday.
Oh yeah. Maybe I
That'd be
should hide
great.
that list for then. Sorry, my bad. But
No, no, no. That's good though. I like that.
but no, yeah. I wanted to mention I really like how each of us kind of had different ways of like kind of like choosing our favorite directors. I think me and my dad were maybe a little similar. I just kind of chose based on like I don't know, just kind of what I thought. I think my dad was maybe the same. Kind of,
Yeah.
but I
I
like
thought it
the
was
point.
funny though, Orion, that all three of us picked the Coen brothers somewhere.
That is interesting.
That's the only director that all three of us had.
I almost didn't, but I thought about the movies and I was like, oh my gosh, they have a lot of really good movies. And I actually was telling my mom about it, and she's like, I said Coen Brothers, she's like, why? And I was like, she doesn't like them, I guess. She was like, yeah, me and Derek, or me and my uncle Derek. She's like, we don't really like them, and I'm like, okay, well, like, I think they're really good. They have a lot of good movies, so I was like, I had to put them on there.
So we
Um,
all agree on the Coens, and we kind of also we agree on a lot. Actually, we a lot of us commented on Kubrick and
Yeah.
Tarantino.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
feel
sure.
bad. I think the one that I couldn't relate to as much, and it's not because I don't like him, but it's because I don't know his movies, and it's Uncle Ruben's number one. I don't know a lot about Woody Allen or his movies. I've seen maybe scenes of
He's
Annie Hall, but I haven't seen his movies much. I know.
I recommend if you want a first time glimpse into the genius of Woody Allen, if you just want to dip in there and swim around, watch Bullets Over Broadway today.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Today.
fun. Yeah, you'll enjoy
I
that.
will check that movie out for sure. 100%.
Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Movies and Deliver. All right, bye-bye, everybody.